So if any of you have ever been involved in hurricane prep, you can understand how isolating it can be after the prep. So right now, this is what's going on outside of my house. It started out as a category 5. Well, started out as nothing, but eventually was at a category 5, tore up the Bahamas. I'm on the east coast of Florida here, and fortunately we were spared. It's turned, this hurricane has turned and is heading north, and we're thankful for that. But in the meantime, I've had a hard time just figuring out what today is. So today is Tuesday, I think, and I wanted to start out by talking about getting your core amp tone. And I have two reasons for recording this video. One is to explain what I'm talking about when I always mention this core amp tone when you're dealing with modelers, or any system for that matter. I mean, if you have a favorite amp, start out with that core amp tone. And the second reason for doing this is I'm preparing to do a comparison between this SUR standard that has SUR's V60 pickups in it. I'm talking about the single coils here, and then that standard Pro right, I have a hard time pointing to that. Standard Pro right there. So that guy has ML, the Michael Landau pickups, and they do sound a bit different. And so I wanted to prepare a clean tone first. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, leave me a comment, and let's get going on this preset. So if you take a look at the screen here, you'll see that I've got a blank preset. I'm going to do something smart this time, and I'm going to put the path on the bottom so I can actually put my picture in picture and not cover up things that I need to not cover up. It's going to be very basic. I just want to explain what I mean about core amp tone. So I've got a basic amp and cabinet. So this isn't anything new. If you have a basic amp tone and say it's very underwhelming and you don't really like it, but you're like, okay, let's just do this preset. I'm going to add all this stuff and I'm going to make it sound better. Chances are it's just going to add to the problem. And this is just how I approach it. And all those things can be affected by your guitar that you use, the strings that you use, the way you play, and we'll talk about cabinet in a few minutes. That plays a big role in how it sounds. So this guitar is what they call the HSS configuration, humbucker single. For this particular preset, we're going to be talking about the JM45, which is based off of Marshall's JTM45. If you haven't read up on the history of that amp and the significance of it, I would definitely take a look. So I'm going to go through here, I'm going to stop talking. Let's just find let's get the basic sound here. So what I've got is I'm going to pick the JM45, Brit JM45. For the cabinet, I'm going to go into my picker here. I've already got them categorized in green. What I chose was this creamback with a 57, 412, and I'm going to do actually dual, go through here, and I'm going to do a 121 on the other side, and I'm going to pan them hard right and left. Now, if this is too bright for you, you can choose the greenbacks, which are in the same pack. These are ML, the ML Sound Labs, but they're stock IRs. So right now we have this as a core amp tone. You can hear right now that it is rather hot. If I go over here to the output, you can look and it's going to be clipping. I'm going to go to the amp and I'm going to come down to, I know this is going to be around negative 18 is where I like this. Let's see. Still hot. What I wasn't accounting for was when I tested this, I was using my single coil with less output. And so that's okay. It's hitting a little bit, but that's all right. Now, what I would suggest is if you plan on adding some boost, things like that, take that level down even more because you want to leave some headroom for when you're going into a solo boost. But for now, this is going to be fine. So now we have this core sound. And then we can come in here, we can go to your cabinet. What I like to do, it depends on the setup you're using. If you have your monitors are maybe a little bass heavy, you may adjust this a little differently. So I'm going to go to the preamp part and I'm going to put my low cut here at around 90 for this. You can go, if it's too bassy, you can increase it more. You can come over here and drop your bass down, which I do anyway a little bit. So I'm dialing this one in a little bit louder in the room, not terribly loud, but I'm not really doing this for live. If it was a live setting, I would definitely turn it up a little louder. So here we've got a nice clean tone. It is not ultra clean. There's a tad bit of breakup here. This drive, I don't know. I mean, I might take it down a little bit, but I do like a little bit of that, you know, breakup to push it. Fairly dry, but there's a couple other things when I'm dialing in tones is, and everything's subjective. You may hear this and go, that's the most boring tone ever. I go by how it feels, and that is impossible to explain to people because everybody plays different. Certain guitars, the way you play, everything makes that amp react differently. We're talking just feedback of how it feels when you're playing. There's a natural compression that happens on some amps. You may like that, you may not like that, where you can feel it kind of, you know, some give and take, right? So now I want to liven things up a little bit. I'm going to go over here, I'm going to just stick a reverb, kind of give that classic sound. Not a spring, because I don't really like that. So I'm going to go to a studio. And then I'm going to come back over here. That adds a little bit of kind of brilliance in there, maybe some things that I don't want. I drop my presence down a little bit. Maybe a tad more, maybe a little bit less here, less mids. So everything, the way you play, the way you pick things, makes that amp react different. You know, if you're just playing strumming, you know, that's very sloppy, but my point is there's not a lot of dynamics there, so every amp reacts different to that. So I like, I'm big on dynamics, quieting things down, you know, muting, hitting it, you know, staccato, legato. Now that is what I feel something to work with, that core amp tone when you're talking about a clean. That's a nice start for me because everything from there I can take my volume down. Say I had a little more drive. A lot of times I like a little bit, I say darker tones. I don't like things that are really shrill. So sometimes I'll play with this, and depending on, once I get that volume up, some of those things will start to pop through, some of those lows, some of those highs. So I'll go in here, I'll tweak the presence, the bass, and some maybe even the bright cap here to try to not be so harsh in my in-ears and out in the audience. I like models that respond very well, I've said it a minute ago, with dynamics, where I don't feel like I'm really kind of fighting it. And on this amp tone, obviously when you get things loud, you want them in a live setting, you want to be able to play with those dynamics, but you don't want things to come through when you hit it to just kind of, you know, make people's eardrums bleed. So when I was searching for a drive, I didn't really find the one that I really liked for what I was going for. But if you just take the 808, let's just do like a clean boost. and let's see how it sounds. I don't want it to add so many mids, honestly. I just want it to change how it feels a little more than anything. You know, you can take down the level just a little bit. You can also play with the input drive, drop that down if it's a little too, because I don't necessarily want it grittier, more so than I want the feel to change. Use your guitar's tone volumes. Now this one only has one tone and controls all the pickups here, but use your tone to your advantage. Use that volume if you want less. A lot of guys will adjust it for a lead tone to give you more dirt or more grit, and then they'll just back off when they want to go a little cleaner. I know I keep using this same riff, but it really works well with getting that clean tone and really seeing how it reacts. I hope this has been helpful. I'm a big fan of dialing in my own presets, starting out with this core amp tone. I believe this is really what the Austin Buddy Naked Amps, so what he's all about when he's talking about, and he's giving you this, is starting out with something that is useful before you start adding all the other sprinkles and icing and all that stuff after that. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave me a comment, and thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.